Now back to the Meyiwa murder trial, where the trial within a trial continues in the High Court in Pretoria. The court is expected to hear arguments on an application by the state to introduce new evidence. But just yesterday, the defence was dealt with a blow after a medical report it submitted as an alibi came back to bite it. Well, eNCA's Meyiwa Mtila is our reporter who has been following the Meyiwa trial and joins us now to give us context as to what exactly happened yesterday. Meyiwa, a very warm good morning to your colleague, and take us through what exactly happened inside court.
Well, yesterday, Tumelo, another application being brought to the court, and this time this was an application that was made by one of the defense lawyers, that is Advocate Thulani Mngomezulu, who is the lawyer for accused number 1 and 2. So he made an application for part of a medical report that he had submitted to court to be excluded from the evidence in court, and this is after the state had led that particular document, that report, which contained, of course, an examination that was conducted by a dentist on the 22nd of June in 2020. This is just 3 days after accused number 2, Bongani Ntanzi, had been arrested. It is also a day that he was supposed to appear in court for his first appearance after his arrest. So he produced this particular medical report just to show the date that, in fact, Bongani Ntanzi had consulted with the dentist on that particular day, and saying that he had not been in court, disputing some of the claims that have been made by Vusimuzi Mohane, who is one of the detectives in this particular matter. You recall that there's an issue around whether accused number 2 had appeared in court or not. So this note was brought to court to prove the dates, and that on the 22nd, Bongani Ntanzi had in fact consulted with this particular doctor, or dentist rather. So what this document though did was also to give some information as far as the physical appearance of Bongani Ntanzi is concerned, the oral, injuries are concerned. So what it shows, Dumelo, is that at the time when he was being, examined by this dentist, Bongani Ntanzi did not have any physical or visible oral injuries at the time. So the state had used this particular note to show to court that at that particular time, Bongani Ntanzi did not have any injuries of some sort. So we saw the defense then now making an application for that particular part of the note or report, rather, to be excluded from court, saying that they only introduced this evidence as an alibi to show that Ntanzi had seen this particular document. And it all goes back to the 18th of June 2022, and this is when Bongani Ntanzi was taken to do an alibi, when his alibi was being checked out at work, as far as whether or not he was working on the 26th of October or not. And there were hours that were unaccounted for, about 12 hours that were unaccounted for. And so Bongani Ntanzi says it's during those hours that he had been assaulted and tortured by the police into making that confession. His confession happened on the 19th of June. That was the first confession that he made before police. The second one was on the 24th of June 2020. So this particular report falls within that time frame of the 16th up until the 24th of June, when he had made that particular confession, the second confession. So he had told the court that it was during that time that he had been assaulted and tortured into making those confessions. But of course, that medical report saying otherwise in terms of the medical, or rather the oral injuries that were seen at that particular time. There were no oral injuries according to that particular report. So the defense applying for that part of that report to be excluded from court, but the judge, of course, ruling against that, saying that the court already had this document, had been submitted and admitted as evidence in court. So let's take a listen to how that unfolded in court.
The defense intended to demonstrate the alibi defense, to say when the state alleges that accused number 2 attended court in Shabani on that particular day. So our alibi to that effect is to say accused number 2 was consulted with the dentist. So the contents And everything contained in the docket was never been an issue to be clarified from the witness.
Yeah, so your submission is a document can be headed up holistically to this court, but this court must just peruse
May
a
I?
minuscule part of it, the 26th of June. The other information which was elicited by this gentleman, who is the state prosecutor, I must ignore that.
No, my lord, I said, let's look at the nature of the evidence.
Yes.
I submitted that it's evidence aliunde. It's outside the document itself, because it only bears the date, not the contents of what was accused number 2 examined for.
You want us to play the record back? Mr. Baloyi led this evidence. Where's that document? Let me just look for it. Mr. Baloyi placed the contents of the document on record.
So what's been expected inside court this morning, Mangoba?
Well, this morning, Tumelo expecting another application that was brought by the state to introduce new evidence to the court, which the defense had objected to yesterday. And this is in relation to the re-examination of Surgeon Vusimuzi Mokhane. So there was new evidence that was presented in court. This is the evidence that relates to a tracking device of the vehicle that Vusimuzi Mokhane had been using on the 18th of June. This is again going to the 17 hours that are unaccounted for, where Vusimuzi Mokhane had been with accused number 2 at the time. What he told the court is that accused number 2 had wanted to go with him when he conducted investigations, and he says that he said he would be bored if he was taken back to his cell. So there's a question as to what happened in those 17 hours. Of course, what Vusimuzi Mokhane says is that this is the time that he had been conducting other investigations, and so this particular device, I think the report of that device is what the state is now intending to lead as evidence in court. Of course, we're going to hear arguments this morning. The judge asking yesterday for both the counsel to prepare arguments that they're going to present to court as to whether or not that particular piece of information can be allowed or introduced rather as new evidence in this particular court. So those arguments are expected to resume when the matter starts at 10 o'clock this morning.
All right, and we'll be sure to update our viewers on everything happening inside court. eNCA's Meyiwa Mtila out for us for the Senzo Meyiwa trial within a trial. That case continue on out in Tshwane.